What is up, everybody? I'm No Lux Given here with your afternoon snap, and today our featured location is Project Pegasus. So I just threw this deck together to try to take as much advantage of the featured location as possible, and that's mostly going to be through triggering Project Pegasus as much as we can through Snowguard, Bear, Legion, Beast, and Nico to grow our Sunspot. And then from there, I'll use Arnim Zola and the Living Tribunal to try to get that Sunspot power into multiple locations. This game starts off pretty slow with Sunspot plus Iron Man. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's a great turn one. It's just 0 power on the board, which is kind of funny. My opponent plays a Blade and discards a card from their hand, which doesn't seem particularly impressive. I don't know if they are a bot or something at this point, so I'm gonna go ahead and snap. And then I draw a great draw on turn 2. Snowguard is going to allow me to get that Snowguard Bear form to start to trigger Project Pegasus multiple times throughout the game. This deck also has Absorbing Man. I don't know if I said that at the start of the video. And then I'm also covering up Falcon. I'll talk more about that towards the end of the video, but I don't think that that card should actually be in this deck, but I am playing it throughout this entire video. So just kind of covering it up there with the Project Pegasus logo. But here we'll get to see the first additional Project Pegasus trigger in action. Unfortunately, my Snowguard moves out of Project Pegasus, out of the Iron Man location and into the Great Web, but we are still gonna have a bunch of extra energy this turn. And as you can see, that extra energy did pump up the Sunspot at the end of my previous turn, and then I still get to use it again this turn. So you kind of get to double dip with Sunspot a little bit, which is really fun. And then I'm gonna quadruple dip right here. I'm gonna play Legion on Project Pegasus, followed by Absorbing Man on turn 4, which is only possible thanks to that turn 4 Project Pegasus re-trigger. That's gonna re-trigger Project Pegasus 4 more times here as we copy that Legion ability. So we're gonna have 20 energy at the end of this turn. That's all gonna get soaked up into Sunspot. That would have been great if Sunspot was still next to Iron Man, but unfortunately that location is gonna get bunked. I'm not gonna be able to use Beast either super effectively this game because of my opponent's Magneto. So a little bit of a bummer, but still a 26 power Sunspot is pretty cool. We've got Nico here as well on the penultimate turn of the game to draw some additional cards that should help me find Living Tribunal, which is pretty good. I play around with some different potential options here as well on this final turn, thinking about, okay, like, do I want to use Beast or something? Like, I am going to have Sarah going into the final turn of the game, but ultimately I think the best plan is to just use Nico to draw additional cards, sacrificing my Beast, and then get Sarah into play and be able to play Living Tribunal and distribute my power across all 3 locations. That's going to make it really tough for my opponent to figure out here. And if I don't play the Snowguard Hawk, that leaves me with like a little bit extra room to play Card Center, but I am only going to have 6 energy, so ultimately I do decide to play that. Then also 13 more power into my Sunspot, putting that up to a total of 39. So pretty silly stuff here. We'll also bounce the Nico, so that will give me more room in the center, which is ultimately why I decided to play the Hawk. You'll see I also draw Falcon this turn, though if I play Falcon on the final turn, then it just bounces my Sunspot and then I lose, which is part of the reason that I brought up that Falcon probably doesn't actually make the cut in this deck. My opponent has a pretty sweet play here with Jubilee into Hela triggering Odin, which then re-triggers Jubilee, finding a Swordmaster, and then re-triggering the Hela. So my opponent gets to do a bunch of stuff there. They also just get to play a death because they had a ton of extra energy. That's one thing that I did not mention in my article. It's a little bit silly, but this featured location does allow you to just play death sometimes, I think, which is kind of fun. But we're just going to finish this game off with Living Tribunal, and my opponent is going to retreat. They've seen enough. So I think that they potentially could have battled for that one, but ultimately we would have won it in the end. This is another pretty fun one. In this game, we actually have turn turn 1 Sunspot plus Legion just immediately. So we are going to immediately be able to generate some additional energy. And in this game, I think we are up against an opponent that is more aware of the Project Pegasus being the featured location, and they're also playing a deck that's taking advantage of it in some capacities, using some other cards that I mention in my Snap.fan article, which you can check out. I'll leave a link for that below and in the video description. But we're going to kick things off with a Legion into Project Pegasus for 10 extra energy, so we're going to have a huge Sunspot. But so is my opponent. So my opponent is going to have a pretty big third location. And then we're really just battling for that center location here. And I'm going to battle for it in a particular way. I'm going to play Iron Man into Project Pegasus. I think that this could have gone either way. Like, there is some consideration to just play Iron Man center, hoping to draw Onslaught. But I'm just hoping to draw Living Tribunal and then spreading my power out across all 3 locations. And I figured that could potentially allow me to battle for Project Pegasus, potentially too. So that's the plan. My opponent plays Electro on turn 2, not realizing just how many times I'm going to be triggering Project Pegasus this game. They also play an Orca, and they're not really going to be able to make use of all of this extra energy while I am. They're just going to soak up all of their energy into Sunspot on this turn of the game. And then on turn 4, with 9 energy, I'm going to Snowguard Bear again with Absorbing Man, and then I'm going to play Beast. I do consider some other potential plays this turn. I could play Falcon, but I don't like that because I am actually, even though it would use up all of my energy, so like in theory, it wouldn't be affecting the Sunspot. I am actually going to have 5 extra energy this turn to soak into Sunspot because Absorbing Man is triggering Project Pegasus. So yeah, I think that there's just better cards to play than Falcon in the deck. Potentially like Odin, that can just open up some crazy lines on top of everything else going on here. Like, imagine I just like didn't play Beast, but then just played Odin into Project Pegasus next turn. I think that that could have been really fun. So maybe that is something that you could try in the future instead of this Falcon. But for now, we are just making an absolutely massive Sunspot. And then I am able to draw Living Tribunal for the final turn of the game. And what is particularly effective about this Living Tribunal here, my opponent has played the Sandspot Iron Lad. They are probably feeling pretty good about their chances to win this center location with the fact that I can only play 1 card each turn, and I'm not even really playing a strong card this turn. I'm just playing Snowguard Bear to trigger Project Pegasus one final time, get a little bit more energy even so. Now, I would certainly be dead to Shang-Chi this game. That is another card that you could potentially play. I think either Professor X, which I also outline as a great Project Pegasus card, or just Armor as like another cheap card to protect your Sunspot, but I'm not worried about it. I don't think that many people are running Shang-Chi. I'm going full combo, and Living Tribunal is able to give me 44 power in all 3 locations, and I dodge Alioth, which just felt awesome. This 8-cube win also got me to Omega rank for the season, so that was pretty sweet. I don't think that this is actually the most competitive deck that you can play today. If you're looking for some more competitive lists, check out the full article on SnapFan. But I do think that this is one of the most fun decks that you can play today, so I definitely wanted to take advantage of that. And if you can have fun and still win cubes by surprising some of your opponents, well, more power to you there then. So we're going to take a look at one final game to round out this video. I've got a lot of big expensive cards in my hand this game: Legion, Zola, Tribunal, and Serra. And there's a few different ways that you could potentially play this with a turn 3 Project Pegasus. However, I also draw Sunspot. So I feel like with Sunspot, you have to just get that in play so that way when you play Legion, that extra 10 power goes onto the Sunspot. But in theory, there were some other potential options. Could have just played Serra. That's a really strong option off of Project Pegasus that I also talk about in the article. And then like just setting up with Living Tribunal also could have been good. And then there's also Legion plus Beast. Just Legion plus Beast, get a bunch of energy and prepare to do it all again. I think that could have been really sweet for 8 energy, but I'm just going to go with Sunspot plus Legion, and unfortunately my opponent uses Moon Knight, so I'm not going to be able to showcase sweet stuff that you can really do with Serra in this video. We're just going to focus on sweet Sunspot stuff and sweet Legion stuff. I get 10 extra energy, so that all goes into Sunspot for a 12 power Sunspot, and now I can use Arnim Zola to move Sunspot to 2 locations and set myself up for an easy win with that. So that's the plan here. I will also probably use Beast on Legion this turn because I have all the extra energy. Could also play Snow Guard and then Beast bounce that. Kind of felt like I didn't need an additional copy of Snow Guard cards because next turn I'm just going to wind up playing Legion. But there really was no harm in beasting the Snow Guard, just kind of decided not to, and to mix up my power, put a little bit of power in Project Pegasus, but I could have done that next turn regardless, so I don't know. But we're going to start off here with the Arnim Zola plus Sunspot. Now the one awkward thing about this play, it does kind of telegraph what you're going to do, much more so than the Living Tribunal does, so that's kind of a downside. I kind of wish that I didn't Legion Mount Vesuvius, because my opponent will probably retreat seeing what we got going on here now. My opponent plays an Arrow, a Craven, and a Juggernaut on their turn 4. A bunch of cards that could have been good against Arnim Zola had my opponent had priority, but of course we've got way more power on the board than they do, so it's not really going to be a problem. And then on turn 5, I'm just going to Legion again, continue to soak power into both of these sunspots, and then I'll play Nico with my 1 extra energy to get oh, that's right, I actually play Nico here destroying my Legion because Nico is on the +2 cards mode. You can't really see it in this recap for some reason, but we're going to destroy this Legion and then draw 2 cards. So I figured that was worth losing the 7 power Legion, because trying to find like other powerful cards just seems sweet. We're still gonna have a bunch of energy this turn, so we'll be able to slam down some big cards. 16 energy on the final turn of the game, plus I can play Snow Guard Bear to get a little bit more energy even into Sunspot. What I should actually do here is Iron Man plus Onslaught into Project Pegasus. That would be 36 power into Project Pegasus, so I would, or I'm sorry, into that first Project Pegasus. I'd have 36 power there. I just instead decided to play a bunch of power into that first Project Pegasus. I figured they were going to retreat anyways, but could have even won all 3 locations this game, and honestly, just a fantastic showcase for this deck. Just wanted to take a second to say, as you saw in those games, Falcon was never super useful, so I would probably take it out of this deck if you're looking to just have some fun and see what you can pull off with this list as well. I think I'd take out Falcon because you never really want to bounce your Sunspot, and I mentioned a few other cards during this video that you could replace it for. I'm very tempted to throw Odin in here, though it doesn't really synergize super well with most of the other cards in this list. It's just another way to trigger Project Pegasus a ton of times, which sounds like a ton of fun to me. So maybe I will throw Odin in, play a few more games, and have another video out for you guys tomorrow. But for today, that's going to be it for me. But you can still check out the article on snap.fan for some other fun and powerful ideas to climb with today. But for this video, that's going to be it. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm No Lux Given. Peace.